Next one is plant life cycles and alternation of generations. Starting from a primitive group of plants to the highly developed and advanced group of plants, we can see the presence of haploid cells and the diploid cells. But in the lower plants, majority of the life cycle is represented by haploid stage having haploid cells, but only the zygote is represented by diploid stage. So here they may participate in mitosis and also in meiosis. Particularly if diploid cells are present, they may participate in mitosis or meiosis depending upon the type of plant body. If the plant body is a diploid plant body, so the zygote which is formed is a diploid cell that will undergo mitosis to produce the diploid plant body. But if the plant body is haploid, the diploid zygote which is formed will undergo meiosis to produce the haploid plant body. Likewise, the plants will have the haploid cells also. Generally, the haploid cells will participate only in the mitotic type of division. So here, the two type of divisions are taking place in the course of life processes of all the plants, in which we can see the presence of two generations in some of them. One is sporophyte or sporophytic generation, and other is the gametophyte or gametophytic generation. But there are some members, particularly the lower plants, where only one generation is present. There is no such alternation of the generations. But starting from bryophytes onwards, we can particularly see the two generations are very much existing, where they are in the alternate manner, and in the process of alternate formation of these two generations, the mitosis and meiosis will be taking place. And at which stage the mitosis or the meiosis is taking place, so that leads to the formation of either the gametophytic generation or the sporophytic generation. Based on that one, we can say gametic meiosis, sporic meiosis and zygotic meiosis are present. So let us see the life cycles and how the two generations, if they are existing, how they are alternate with each other in the different life cycles. The first one is Haplantic life cycle. In the Haplantic life cycle, here only the gametophyte generation is present, which is free living, and sporophyte is, we can say sporophyte is absent, or it may be represented in the form of a zygote. Zygote is the only diploid structure in the entire life cycle. So here the zygote is formed by the fusion of two haploid structures, that is a male and the female gamete, as a result of sexual reproduction. So here the zygote which is formed will undergo meiosis to produce the haploid structures. From there the haploid plant body will be produced. So if you see that life cycle, the zygote, which is diploid in its nature, and this will undergo meiosis. Like this is a zygote which undergoes meiosis to form 4 haploid cells. When they form the 4 haploid cells, so that will be converted into the gametophyte generation. which is haploid in its nature, and this gametophyte will produce the gametes by a process called as gametogenesis, and these gametes are also haploid in the nature because the plant body itself is a haploid one, and these two gametes, that is male and the female gametes, which are formed as a result of gametogenesis, will participate in a process called as fertilization process, once again resulting in the formation of zygote. So this is a life cycle which occurs in the haplantic plants, in which zygote is the only diploid stage, whereas all other stages are in the haploid condition. So here we can see only the free living stage, that is gametophyte is a free living stage. No, it is not represented with the sporophytic generation. So this type of life cycle is present in the lower organisms like in algae, like Chlamydomonas, Spirogyra, Volvox. This is considered the primitive type. It can be observed in the lower plants. The next type of life cycle is the Diplantic life cycle. Here in the Diplantic life cycle, the sporophytic generation is present, which is a diploid and free living stage, and here in this process the gametophyte generation is not present, or it may be represented only by the gametes, and it is a very short span of period. And here if you see the life cycle pattern here, starting with the sporophyte, which is diploid in its nature, this sporophyte will produce the gametes by a process called as gametogenesis. And here during this process the meiosis will be taking place, leading to the formation of haploid structures. So these haploid structures are nothing but the gametes, and these gametes will participate in the fertilization process, leading to the formation of zygote, which is diploid stage. Once again the zygote will be converted into the sporophytic generation. So here this is the only stage where haploid condition is present, and no such a plant body like a gametophyte is existing here. So the remaining life cycle is represented only by the diploid structures in the form of sporophytic plant body, and here the meiosis is taking place during the gamete formation. So they exhibit gametic meiosis. So when gametic meiosis is taking place, that results in the haploid gametes resulting into diploid zygote. The diploid zygote will undergo mitosis to produce a sporophyte, which is also diploid in its condition. So the next type of life cycle is a DiploHaplantic life cycle. In the DiploHaplantic life cycle, the plants will have two generations. One is a sporophytic generation and a gametophyte generation. The sporophyte is a diploid generation, whereas the gametophyte is a haploid generation. And as we know, the sporophyte will produce the spore mother cell, which undergoes meiosis, leading to the formation of haploid spores. And those haploid spores will give rise to the haploid stage, that is called as gametophyte. and the gametophyte will participate in the sexual reproduction by forming the gametes by mitosis, because the gametophyte body itself is a haploid one. Then the gametes which are haploid in the condition, they will fuse to form a zygote. That zygote is diploid, and that zygote will undergo mitosis once again to form into the sporophytic plant body. Likewise, the two generations are there which are forming in the alternate manner. Then let's start here with the sporophyte plant. Here the sporophyte plant will produce the spore mother cells. The spore mother cells are diploid in condition. Then this spore mother cells will undergo meiosis, where one spore mother cell will form 4 haploid spores as a result of meiosis, and these spores, when they germinate, they converted into, or they germinate and give rise to the next stage called as gametophyte stage, which is haploid in its condition. Then this is a sexual stage which start producing the sex organs and leading to the formation of gametogenesis. That is gametes are formed which are haploid in condition. This gametogenesis will occur by a process called as mitosis. Then the gametes will participate in the fusion, that is a fertilization process leading to the formation of zygote. This zygote will be in diploid condition, and this zygote will undergo further mitosis to form into sporophyte. So here from this stage, so this is a diploid phase, whereas this is a haploid phase. So the two phases are there, we call it as a DiploHaplantic life cycle. So this type of life cycle is mostly been seen in the pteridophytes, gymnosperms and the angiosperm group of plants. The members of bryophytes will exhibit the intermediate type of life cycle, which is called as Diplantic life cycle, because in bryophytes the gametophyte is the dominant stage. The life cycle will start with the gametophyte, which is haploid, and this gametophyte will produce as the gametes, that is gametogenesis will occur, leading to the formation of gametes by mitotic process. And these gametes, when they fuse by a process called as fertilization, they form the second stage or second generation, that is a sporophyte generation, which is diploid in its condition. And this sporophyte will produce as spore mother cells, which are diploid, and these spore mother cells will undergo meiosis to produce haploid spores, and these spores on germination they give rise to the gametophytic stage. So here the only difference is the life cycle starting with the gametophyte, and in the mean course of time the sporophyte will be coming. So the gametophyte, as it is haploid and dominant, that's why we call it as a Diplantic life cycle, which is present in the bryophyta group of plants. Some exceptional cases are there in the algal members, because in algae it is a Haplantic life cycle, but there are some members like ectocarpus and kelps, that is laminaria. So these two members are showing Diplantic type of life cycles, and fucus is other member which is also showing the Diplantic type of life cycle. But there are some members of rhodophyceae, that is red algae, like Polysiphonia. Which is showing DiploBiotic type of life cycle. So in the DiploBiotic life cycle, two diploid generations are present. The two diploid generations are, one is a Carposporophyte, which is diploid in condition, and other one is Tetrasporophyte. So here, apart from these two generations, the parent plant is there. The parent plant is Gametophyte, which is haploid in its condition. So here the Carposporophyte is dependent on the Gametophyte, and it will produce the carpospore. The carpospore which is formed by the Carposporophyte is diploid in its condition, and this Carposporophyte on germination which will give rise to the Tetrasporophyte, which is also diploid in condition. So this occurs by a process called as mitosis. And the Tetrasporophyte, in this the meiosis will occur, leading to the formation of tetraspores, and these tetraspores are generally haploid in condition, and these tetraspores will once again give rise to the parent plant which is gametophytic in generation. So here in the entire life cycle, so what is happening is gametophyte is haploid, one generation, and the two diploid generations are present. That's why we call it as a diplobiotic life cycle present in Polysiphonia like examples.